So we're here ready to do our new podcast where we interview professionals, businesses, community organizations, and more.
But I thought we were here to interview artists.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah, we're going to be interviewing all types of artists, musicians, poets, singers, dancers, painters. Whatever your craft is, we welcome you to come to our podcast and tell us who you are, locally and abroad.
Or is it more about relationships and why those in love wear matching outfits?
Well, to each his own when it comes to outfits. We like to dress alike, of course. And it does matter how we look, both individually and as a couple. We represent each other, right?
Right. So, since you said that, shouldn't this really be about beauty?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to share some of my beauty tips, of course. I mean, that's what I do. Oh, yes, darling, because you do know that I am a Mary Kay consultant, and I've got to let them in on some of my secrets. Anyway, you know, because when you look good, you feel good.
Speaking of look good, feel good, that reminds me that this is more about the vegan, plant-based lifestyle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Plant-based living saved my life. Fighting diabetes, you know, changing my lifestyle to the vegan lifestyle has really, really improved my health. And so we're going to show everybody how to eat right, tasty dishes that are good for you, and have some guests who can help us with those culinary arts.
That's what's up. So what about the reflections and encouragement of the day? Isn't that what it's really about?
I think at the end of the day, people are going to want to know, what is ChynaGroove? I'm China Doll.
I'm D-Groove.
And together, we are ChynaGroove.
1, 2, 1, 2. We are who?
Oh, that's a good mic check. Ow. Hey, what's the day?
Saturday.
It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday. A little raspy tonight.
Wait a minute.
Excuse me.
El agua is...
Let me take a
right
sip
there.
of that. Let me take a little sweet. That was terrible.
While she's taking a sip of water to clear that throat, once again, it's on another Saturday evening.
At 6:32 and 49 seconds.
Getting all precise.
Yes, I learned that from you.
That would be Eastern Standard Time where we are, and wherever you are, just add or subtract whatever you need to add or subtract.
That's plus or minus.
That's plus and minus all day. It's that simple arithmetic.
Negative versus positive. Don't get it twisted.
Once again, thank you all for joining us. And yes. I have the pleasure, the honor, the distinct privilege to sit across from this wonderful, amazing woman, Miss Tari Khiya Allen-Butler, Washington.
He's just too much, y'all. He's just too much, y'all.
Wait a minute. You know. She's over there, so I'm up. Yes.
He's such a good husband. Ain't he good? Good. Thank you. And who he is my hubby, my boo, my bae, my favorite guy in the whole wide world, the magnificent and luxurious.
The magnificent.
Beat maker, radio voice, silky smooth, GQ, Mr. D-Groove Washington. Derek D-Groove Washington. And together we are ChynaGroove Podcast. Not show tonight. I'm excited. We got somebody so special in here tonight. I just cannot wait. I cannot wait to share who is sitting right here next to me. She is an author. She bakes some amazing cookies. Y'all want to get with the program. We'll talk about that later. I'm still waiting on her to make them vegan versions of them. But
I was going to say vegan?
This veganish. And we'll talk about that later.
Version? Vegan?
Yes.
I tried to save you.
Amongst other things, she is a mom and she's a motivator. She's a podcaster, content creator. She wears so many hats and looks fabulous doing it. Mrs. Tari Khiya Allen-Butler. Give it up, y'all.
Hey, What's up, everybody? Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you for stopping by and hiding away on a nice day, and coming indoors on a nice day.
Yes, we know you were chilling like a villain. The good guy, though.
Yes, but I appreciate this opportunity, so thank you all for inviting me.
Not a problem.
Yes, indeed.
My bad. I was stuck on the beat. My bad.
Oh yeah. And beats by D-Groove himself. He's so humble, but shameless plug is always good, right? So give it up for D-Groove on the beats, y'all. Yes!
I had to give myself a hand.
So, Tari, oh my goodness, we got you in the hot seat tonight. On tonight. Yes, that's a sanctified way to say it. On tonight. And we're so glad about it. We're going to let you start off by telling people who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Tari Khiya Allen-Butler. I know it's really long. I feel like when I introduce my name, but I like to incorporate all the things. As she mentioned, I do have Khiya's Cookies. So that's my middle name. So I try to incorporate that so people are like, who is Khiya? When I talk about cookies, that's my middle name. But as she shared, I am a baker, I am a mom, an author. I'm also an educator. I teach speech therapy in the school systems and with the daycares in the community. I'm a lover of God, like a complete God ambassador, a God advocate. Like anytime that I get a chance to talk about him or share with him to people, that's going to be my conversation. I'm somebody that's into breaking generational curses. I can talk about that all day, all the time too. Like that's my passion. So that's who I am.
Yes, indeed. And that is so awesome. You are an amazing young lady, and I can say that because I know I'm a little bit older than you. Anyway, so first let's start with, tell us about how you got started. Let's start with your writing. Tell us about this amazing book and where we can find it first.
Yeah, so my book is called Mom Keys to Mental Peace, 12 Tips to Become a Healthy Mom and Raise Healthy Children. I've always had a passion for writing. I can remember as a kid always having a journal or some type of pen, even before I knew how to form letters. I just remember like scribbling like, oh, I'm writing cursive, even though it wasn't anything, but it's just something about that pen to paper. Writing is just very therapeutic to me. So ever since a child, I've been into writing. I can remember my fourth grade teacher calling me Maya Angelou. I didn't even know who she was at that time, but she was like, you're going to be the next Maya Angelou with your writing. It's just always something that came easy to me. So around COVID, right at the beginning, literally like March of 2020, I started working with a writing coach that I found on Instagram. And I was really nervous about going through with it as far as like the pricing and how much it was to work with her. But I decided to use my taxes to invest at that time. And I will say, during that time, God was really working on my heart and my mindset changed with, what I was interested in, people who I was connecting with, people who he was connecting me with. So I was like, I don't know what's going on with this whole COVID stuff. Like, do I need to hold on to my coins? Because I want to do this, but I was really nervous. But I just heard the Holy Spirit at that time that my word for the year was obedience. So I just heard the Holy Spirit saying, be obedient. This is your time to do it. This is the time to do it now. And I'm so grateful that I was obedient and I listened at that time, because that particular writing coach, she has taken off, and baby, the price has for sure went up to work with her. So, like looking back, I'm like, wow, like I'm so grateful. But that journey for me with writing the book was really like a pregnancy moment. I was nervous about writing it. It was like a group coaching thing where there were other women writing books as well. But these women had doctorate degrees. They had established careers in entrepreneurship. And I was like, I just got a couple journal entries. Like, I felt out of place, but God was like, no, you're supposed to be here. Like, I'm revealing to you the possibilities of what you can walk into, what these ladies are doing. So instead of feeling intimidated and shying back, I was empowered and encouraged, and they supported me so much. I'm glad it was done as a group to get this book out. I mean, there were some tears, there was some frustration, like there was some doubt, but it literally was like a pregnancy process of like pushing this book out. I had some doubts about the book, some negative self-talk, like, well, is it that good? Is it going to, meet up to the possibility of, what it can be? But this book has opened so many doors that I was not even thinking about. The book is actually an influence for the podcast, Mom Keys to Mental Peace. I was not thinking about a podcast in 2020. I was not thinking about speaking to women or anything that I'm doing now as a result of this book. So I'm just so grateful that I pushed through my fears, that I pushed through my doubt, and just went ahead with it. And I'm on the other side of what that obedience looked like.
Obedience.
Girl.
That is a whole lesson within itself, a lifelong lesson.
Yes.
That when God says move, it will change your life. Mm-hmm. It will put you on the path. And I like the way that you expressed yourself in the book, and I found that you have it's a very similar story for a lot of young women. I like to call myself a survivor of teen pregnancy. Yeah. And so when I began to read your book, I heard that in my spirit again, and I said, this is what it's all about, being transparent and putting God first, of course, but being transparent and letting someone know that has started on this path to motherhood as a young lady, and being unsure, especially when you have all those other voices in your ear telling you what you shouldn't do. And sometimes it's just our own personal voice, yep. Right? Yep. And so, just tell us a little bit about, without spoiling the book, tell us about the Mom Keys to Mental Peace. How did you come to that?
Yes. So one of the biggest things that I say God has changed in my life is my mindset, that mental peace. And in regards to teen pregnancy, I had a lot of mental trauma from, family trauma from that situation. Like, yes, it was a blessing, but at the same time, that was a traumatic situation because I was a child having a child, even though I didn't see it that way. But, looking back and once I've really reflected on the situation, like, girl, you were a baby. And I will say, looking at my nieces who are 17, 18, it's like, yeah, girl, you were, well, they don't have babies, but just looking at their mindset and the way that they operate, they're kids. They are kids. And it was like, girl, you were a kid. So just going back to that, I had just a lot of mental trauma, and there's mental health issues in my family as well that I feel like I experienced as a teenager. So this Mom Keys to Mental Peace was really about healing that mental trauma, quieting the negative self-talk and the noise that I would tell myself, and it specifically regards to motherhood. As I said, once I went through my mindset transformation and just things coming to light to me of you are kind of toxic with your child. There's certain things certain patterns that you're doing that are unhealthy that needs to be changed. So I felt like I need to share with other women, with other mothers, hey, this is a red flag. This is a warning sign in case you're doing these things with your children that need to be changed. Also, I realized that in order to be a healthy mom, I had to be a healthy woman. It had to start with me as a woman before it could spill over into me being a mother, me being a wife, me being a friend. Who am I as a woman? And then that had to back up to who God said that I was. What does my relationship look like with God? So really just getting that hierarchy in place. Who does God say that I am? Who do I know that I am? So that it can spill over into my other relationships, and specifically as a mom. I also dealt with a lot of mom guilt. I said, once I figured out the way that I was going about things was not healthy, feeling like it's too late to change things, I've already, messed him up, my son at that time. But I realize now that was a lie from the enemy trying to stop me from pursuing my healing journey. It's never too late. We can make a change now. Now that I'm aware of it, don't keep doing the same thing. Pivot, make a change, make a difference. So that's what, the heart is behind this book is, not to condemn moms or blame them and shame them, but really to bring awareness and give those tools and steps on okay, how to get that hierarchy in place so that you can show up and be the best and healthy mom that you can be.
And I think you kind of answered the question that I had in my head was, how did you get inspired to, as you said earlier in your intro, to break that generational curse? And it sounds like to me that came from within you.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
Another inspiration, I know I watch a lot of Iyanla Vanzant, the Fix My Life shows. And it's interesting because my mom, she used to read her books and things. I remember as a kid seeing her books around. So watching her show, I know her method can be crazy sometimes. She's off the chain, but
in your face.
She's literally like,
confront it.
Yes.
Like, child, okay, sis, I get it, but we ain't got to be that close. But I picked up on the pattern of the method. Like, everybody that she talked to, it was like, well, tell me about the relationship with your mother, your grandmother, your father, and how she was pinpointing, like, the patterns that were showing up, which made me kind of sit back and look at the patterns in my family, like, okay, favoritism for siblings is a pattern. That was something I was afraid of when I had my second child. Or self-identity in men, like feeling like you have to have a man to feel valuable. Okay, that's something that I've seen in me. So that kind of helped me to self-reflect or give me those tools to work with, you know, that starter kit to kind of work with and do that self-work for with myself.
Yeah, that is so amazing because what I wanted to ask you, at what point did you have this encounter with God? Not just the voice that you heard that said to be obedient, and because I'm sure that you found God and started your path earlier. What was that moment when you found out this is who God says I am?
Yes, so I always tell this story. I always say in 2018 is when I became saved. Like I always knew about God. But I didn't have a relationship with him. It was more so like religious practices. And I was kind of afraid of God. But I will say in 2018, me and my husband, we're high school sweethearts. So, and I've shared that too. We have like the ultimate ratchet baby mama, baby daddy story. We have come on the other side of that. So 2018 was one of those moments we were having. And again, like I shared, I felt like my value was in a man, and I didn't realize I was placing unrealistic expectation on him, which is why I was getting so upset. But I was just like in my living room crying and was just like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like something has to change. And I just remember watching YouTube videos at that time of sermons, and I came across a pastor called Michael Todd. Now I know he's he got some stuff going on recently, but he really was the catalyst for that relationship building with God.
The word.
It was the word. So I started reading scripture. I started writing out positive quotes and like posting them around on my mirrors in my bathroom, in my room. I just needed some positive affirmation around me. I started paying attention to my friendships, the conversations that we were having. It was just like this light came on in my mind, and it was like some changes need to be made. I feel like I was in a pruning season at that time, in a wilderness season at that time, that I felt lonely. I felt like, am I ever going to have a relationship with friends or romantic anymore? Because I just felt like God was stripping everything from me. But once I went through that pruning season and that light came on, I was able to navigate myself back to the relationships that I needed to be in and continue to let go of the relationships that no longer served me or wasn't healthy for me.
That pruning season, when you say that, I just think about the cutting. And sometimes we have to be ever so cautious to understand that the cutting is for our good. Yeah. And, you know, when we think about it in a gardening sense, those that plant flowers, you know, you have to trim away the old leaves and trim away those things that might be infected from bugs or what have you. And it is so hard for myself. I'm talking about me. I don't know about you, but it is so hard at times for us to understand the changes that come when relationships pivot. When you pivot and relationships don't pivot with you, people don't pivot with you, and you find yourself on an elevation towards God. And it's like we talked about, I think on the last show, how a rocket ship takes off and it has these boosters on it.
Stages.
And the boosters have to push you. It's like the fire has to come and just heat you up, and you just going, and you shaking and you shaking and you going. And then you hit this altitude that is very dangerous, and then the boosters come off and you're just suspended. You just come to a place where you're like, okay, what's going to happen?
Literally.
When you had that moment, tell us a little bit about that moment when the boosters came off. How did you react, or how did you adjust when people started falling off, or you, for a season, even if it was not just for a season, but at the moment it felt like forever, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, what are some pointers that you can give a lady or young man even who comes to that place in their life where the boosters fall off?
Yeah, so I can say for me, I definitely went through those stages of grief, having to let certain things go, or certain relationships go, because sometimes, you know, certain relationships, you feel like this is forever. Like, this is my road dog. We in this together. We done been through so much. Like, this person gets me. But like you said, once you're going through that elevation or that next level, sometimes they don't get it. And sometimes they can be offended by your elevation and then you start picking up on like the little cattiness, and you might like brush it off like, well, maybe they didn't mean it like that. But then you notice it's happening more frequent, or you notice certain energy when you do share things about your elevation or about your healing process or anything that's bettering you, and you start to notice those responses or lack thereof, then it's kind of like, okay, well, I've got to make a decision here. Do I continue to sit here and feel uncomfortable or be abused, or do I address it? You know, there's been times where I've tried to address it, but I could tell in the conversation that, you know, it just still was not being received. So I feel like I went through the stages of grief, like having to grieve the loss of what you want that relationship to be, what you thought that it was going to be. And this has been both friends and family for me, you know. So it's really hard, but I will say, on the other side looking at it, I see why it had to happen, you know, and I trust that, you know, God had it happen for a reason. And I'm grateful for the people that he has brought into my life as a result of, you know, me having to let certain things go. I'm grateful for this new place that I'm in of acceptance, you know, for what it is, and forgiveness as well, and being able to see my part in it. Because I feel like when people say, you know, oh, you got to let people go, we don't really look at the part that we might play in it sometimes. Like, sometimes we can be that person that they need to let go, you know. So just seeing both sides of it, really honing in on forgiveness and acceptance in this season has really helped me with that rocket ship moment and those things falling off.
I was just sitting here and I was hearing, and there are the 7 stages of grief, and acceptance is one of them. I just wanted to look up real quick. You know, how do you discern once you get to that place of grief? I was just looking up real quick to see if they had those listed in an easy way.
While you're looking that up, I got something. Of course, I always, you know, have something to throw in there.
Obedience, obedience, obedience,
So
even through grief.
I'm going to go ahead and play this.
Hey y'all, happy New Year. I hope everybody is doing well. Just wanted to come share something real quick, if you catch the replay of this. But I had seen a post where it was like, don't be in a situation where you're still doing the same things in 2024 that you were doing in 2023. So like, still having financial issues, still having relationship issues, still dealing with drama, friendship breakups, like, or whatever that thing is for you that you're still dealing with, like, year after year after year. Just warning, like, don't let 2024 be that year for you. And I completely agree, because I think it's important to take some time today, if you have time, just write down and reflect, like, the highlights of your life, or what went well in your life, or what you were struggling with, and just kind of reflect on that. Like, was this something every single year? Was this something last year I was dealing with? Was this something the year before that I was dealing with? Like, how many years has it been? And really, like, sit with it and reflect on it. I know we all have certain seasons for trials and things that go on, but sometimes you keep going through it because you're not learning the lesson from it, right? Kind of like passing a test or in school, you're not going to go to the next level until you complete the test, or show that you understand the current level that you're on. So I just highly encourage you to do that today. Take some time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and just kind of reflect on where you are. And this isn't to condemn you if you do find yourself in that situation, but take advantage of the awareness. Like, now that you see it, now that you know, what are you going to do with it? So that's all I have to say to you all. Happy New Year. If we made it to this last day in 2023, praise God, because everybody has not, man. I know this year has been rough for some people. This year has been a blessing to some people. Some people have experienced a little bit of both, but just really try that exercise for today, and y'all take care.
Wow.
I like the title of that. Don't get stuck on still.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an on-time word, a timely word, ongoing. Yeah, don't get stuck.
Don't get stuck on still.
And that just piggybacks off of what I was looking up just now when he played that, and that's the 7 stages of grief. And it starts with shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and bargaining. That's heavy. Like, when you're mad, how can you bargain when you're mad? Depression. Then there's an upward turn. Then there's reconstruction and working through. And then this last one is acceptance and hope. So when that really ministered to me, that's why I just kind of like triggered that 7 stages of grief. And that is a lot like the countdown for the rocket to go up, right?
Yep.
So acceptance was the last step of that. As you realize you're going on an upward motion, how could you tell somebody to work through these 7 steps? And other than the word discernment, like, what are some tips that you could give someone that's going through that transition?
Yeah, so for me, this kind of goes back to like the generational curse thing. So I'll just share my story, and hopefully you can grab some tips from that. But for me, I've watched 2 very close family members get stuck in the grief cycle, but in those other parts, the depression, the bargaining, the anger, and I've just seen how it had an effect on their life. I've seen how it had an effect with their relationships, with their finances, with their career, with their mindset, with their mental health, with their physical health. Like, I just saw how being stuck in that cycle and not moving to the other parts. And I understand too with grief, like, they say that sometimes you go through a cycle, that it's not this end point. Sometimes you go through. But again, being just stuck, like not even moving to the other parts, I just saw how that affected their life. And I did not want that to be my story. I did not want that to be me. So I would just say, even though it's hard to get over things sometimes, not saying you have to, like, dismiss your feelings or have this fake positive energy like, oh, I'm fine and nothing's going wrong. But at some point, there comes a point where you have to be, sick and tired of being sick and tired. You have to accept that, some people didn't have the tools to do right by you. And that's okay that they didn't have that. Yes, it hurt you, but they didn't have it to give, and you have to accept that. That's where you have to get to that acceptance part. You have to understand too that there were things that you did. This is where that relationship with God comes in. There are things that you have done to God. There are things that you have done to offend God, and he still forgave you at the end of the day. He died for our sins while we were yet still sinners.
Yes.
And when you really grasp onto what that means and wrap your mind around it, it's like, who am I to hold a grudge towards somebody? Who am I to hold this over somebody's head or walk around with this anger, around with this entitlement or this woe is me story that I can't move past it, you know? And like I said, just seeing the result of that in those two close family members, I was like, that cannot be me. And also, you know, talking about it, sharing your story and serving others brings healing, because now the attention and focus isn't just on you and what was done wrong to you and how you were hurt and you. Now that energy is focused and shifted to somebody else. Well, how can I help somebody else? How can I share my story in hopes that it helps somebody else? What lessons can I learn from this situation? That's another thing that I always say. There's never a loss in what we go through. There's always a lesson that you can learn from it. And I feel like sometimes we just don't want to learn the lesson. We just want to feel sad. We want others to feel bad for us. Also with these family members, I noticed how like they enjoy people feeling bad for them. And this goes back to like trauma and people expressing love. You feel like if you're hurt and someone's comforting you in your hurt, that's an expression of love. But there's other ways that you can receive love. It doesn't have to just be when there's pain involved.
Exactly.
Like, you know.
Wow.
So just seeing that and learning that really helped me push past the getting stuck in that cycle.
Yeah, we were talking about idols at church the other Sunday, and people always talk about other gods or, you know, worshiping other religion. But some people have made their pain their idol.
Yes.
And when you said that, I just kept hearing that sermon in my head about how the normal has become woe is me.
Yes.
And so when woe is me becomes the norm, that's how you get attention.
Yep.
And if that's the only type of attention that you get, you're going to stay stuck on woe is me. That is so interesting how it sounds easier said than done to get out of that mindset.
It does.
But what is the way? I know it's God Almighty. He is the way. But what are some tools that you think people could use to recognize this type of behavior?
Some tools. I guess kind of like I shared before, serving others. I think that's a great place to start. Like, especially if it's an area that you have an issue with, like say you've dealt with sexual abuse or something like that, maybe connecting with other people who have, you know, dealt with your pain or your trauma that you experienced, and talk with them as in a point where you're trying to share, but you're not like complaining to, you know, receive pity, but y'all are really like trying to share strategies that have helped you to, you know, move past that issue or to deal with the pain of that issue. Really also, I think it comes with, you know, just the transformation of your mind. I've read Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer, and that was a big pivotal transformation for me as well. Just paying attention to your thoughts, thinking about what you're thinking about. So how often are you dwelling on this issue? You know, what thoughts are you thinking about the issue? How do you feel when you're thinking about this issue? How does those thoughts reflect in your words to how you speak about the issue? How does your thoughts reflect in your actions with how you act or how your emotions feel once you're thinking about that issue? It really takes some self-awareness and some self-work. It's not easy. Like you said, it's easier said than done. But I feel like there just has to come a point where that work is put in if you want to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, I remember Joyce Meyer used to always say, talk about it, think about it, talk about it, think about it. And that popped in my head. It's so amazing how this little bowl of jelly in our head that is our brain affects every part of our body and every action that we take. And it is so awesome how you've taken trauma and what you've witnessed and what you've experienced, and you put it together and you shook it up, you mixed it up, and you sifted through it, you filtered out what you needed at such a young age. And I love that. Kudos to you for that.
I think one of the main things that I'm hearing out of this is that you definitely have to be honest with yourself first.
Honest.
You have to have deep introspection with yourself, and then what you find in there, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
You got to face it. You got to say, hey, that's me. that's
Yes.
part of me, and then let's move past it.
Yes.
And I tell this story all the time that if you look at the pandemic as always a negative thing, it will always and forever be negative, and you'll always be down. But think about it. We all had to.
Yep.
We all had to just really, and if you didn't take that time to really look into yourself and do a lot of self-evaluation, then you weren't taking full advantage of what really was a once-in-a-lifetime thing to do. You didn't have any worries, any cares other than, there was worries, but you had that moment of reflection that was there for every single person. And it's how you came out of it on the other side was determined by how much of that time you really took to be honest with yourself and move forward instead of being stuck on still. See how I brought that back?
I love that.
Yep. And honestly, that was the first chapter of this book is about the honesty piece and that self-reflection. Like it starts there. You can't lie to yourself. You can't be afraid of the truth. Like just go ahead and face it, and then you can move on to the healing.
Because if you lie to yourself and you claim to move on, have you really moved on?
Right.
You've just ignored it and pushed it back over here on this side of this little corner of your mind. And then later on, something's going to happen and bam, there it is again.
Yep. It's going to show up.
It's unresolved.
Yep.
You put that in the unresolved closet.
Yeah, and it's a matter of trusting the process. When y'all keep saying reflection, I keep thinking about, how in the movies people have that moment of grief or shock and trauma, and they just get in the mirror and they just cry.
Man.
You just look at yourself and it's like they say the eyes are the window to your soul, and you just look at yourself and you're just like,
Yes.
right? You get it. You either get it out or you fix yourself up. We wear the mask that grins and lies. You put on your face, and you have a choice to, like he said, confront what's making you feel that way and figure out a way with God to help yourself get past it, get through it, or find some coping skills for the pain. Or some people cover it up with hair, makeup, lashes, money, things, people, habits,
Amazon.
Addictions. Sheen and Temu. But, and so let's talk about that, because my nickname is China Doll. And my China Doll is kind of like has been in the past until I grew past it, my alter ego that I had to put on my face and be a singer and be a person who smiled all the time and was the hostess with the mostest and just always greeting everybody with joy and peace and love and blessings. But inside I was really going through some stuff, a lot of different occasions, or repeating the situations again with relationships, not learning the lesson. Let's talk about the mask that we wear and that I'm okay.
Yeah.
That I'm fine. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes, so I will say my mask for me, especially as a teen mom, I was trying to cover it up with achievements. So I graduated high school early. At that time, all of my friends were going off to universities for college, but I decided to stay home and do a community college. And I felt so much regret about that, so much shame, like comparison, like, oh, everyone's going off to this university and here I am in town going to this 2-year college. And so my plan was, well, I'm going to do this, but then I'm going to get my bachelor's, then I'm going to get my master's, then I'm going to do that, like all of these bigger goals and plans that I had for myself to prove my worth. And I was so afraid of being stereotyped as this Black teen mom who, lives in the projects, on welfare, do this, that, and the third. And I just didn't want that to be me. So I would say my mask was trying to present myself to society as a success. Like I didn't fail. I can still do this. But the motive behind it was all wrong. Because in my pursuit for those things, I was neglecting my son at that time. But I will say also too, I realized in that season that since I had him as a teen, that I didn't have life established for him. So I had to do it while he was there. So that's kind of a twofold thing for me that I've, got acceptance about for that mom guilt. Like, well, girl, you had to do it at some point. He was here. So there was a sacrifice that had to be made with time in those earlier years. But yes, for sure, my accolades and success I tried to cover as a mask. Another generational pattern that I noticed I tried to cover up with is a lot of shopping. I know your husband mentioned Amazon. I would just find myself at the mall just looking for stuff and shopping with like nowhere to go, no event or like anything coming up, just buying stuff to be buying stuff. And I realized that was a pattern that I learned from my mom, because my mom was the one that had McDonald's money. Okay. When I was a kid, like we always went out to eat. She was always shopping. We were always doing things, but I didn't realize that was a mask that she was using to cover the pain that she dealt with. She was a name brand freak, like BMW, Michael Kors, the shoes, like all the things. And there was just a moment where I had to reflect, and it was like, why are you buying this stuff? Why do you feel like you need this stuff? What is the motive behind why you're getting these things? And y'all, that question, why?
Why?
It will save you from so many things, or just bring into perspective, like, what are you doing? What are you doing when you just stop and ask why, and really sit with that and really go through the real reasons? Like, well, I want people to like me, or I want people to think that I have money, or I want people to think that I'm established. And when you start saying, okay, well, why does it matter what they think? Or why do you have to have these things in order to, feel like you have some type of value or to gain acceptance? And if you need these things for acceptance from these people, why do you want their like really doing that deep dive?
You got to dig.
So that helped me to, kind of take that mask off. I don't have a master's degree. I don't have a bachelor's. I have my 2 associate's degrees that I am using. I have no student loan debt at all.
Good.
So it was just like at that time in that season, I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, I guess, or like feeling, woe is me. Some of those friends that went off did not finish. They have debt. Or they finished and aren't using that degree in that career, so it was just like really a full circle moment where I had to sit back and reflect, like, you were so upset at that time, you were trying to strive and do all this stuff, but look at the peace that you have in this season, as a result of just, again, being obedient, and just doing what I could with what I had in that season.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. How to compartmentalize your why. Why am I doing this?
Yes.
And that's part of the lesson, right?
Yep.
So if you get to the place when you realize the epiphany comes and say, oh, that's why I keep getting in these type of toxic relationships, or that's why I keep gaining a couple pounds here and there. That's why you want to talk about that?
Girl. We can go there.
But when you make cookies like you make, you kind of can't help it, right? You look fabulous.
Listen, that was something that I will say I won't say I fully arrived, but that was something I had to work through, because I did have, from a child, an eating disorder where I would overeat, and sweets were my thing, and cookies was my trigger. So I know when I started baking cookies about 6 years ago, there was a period, like the first 3 years, where I was like kind of inconsistent, or things were happening. But I felt God telling me too, like, we've got to get this eating under control, because I would bake, and if nobody ordered any, then I would eat the rest of them. Or me and my family, would just sit and eat. And it's like, that's not why I told you to do this. Like, that's not what we're about to do with this business. So I really had to put some boundaries in place and get that under control. I know I've dealt with weight issues since 4. With my family, I feel like at that time they were in control of, what I ate at that time.
Yeah, you have a
so
choice.
Just reflecting on that, like, there were just no boundaries as a child. So now I'm having to learn to give myself boundaries as an adult. So yeah, that was something I had to get together in order for, I feel like, the business to be a success, or for me not to make it into this unhealthy thing and abuse it,
Yeah, when I think about comfort, my mother used to say, this is comfort food. It just be something soft and easy or something sweet. And food was a reward when we were children. It's like, you did good, you get a cake. It's your birthday, you get a cake. You get a cake, you get a cake, you get a cake. You get some cookies, right? And so comfort eating or stress eating or any types of disorders eating that can develop into a disorder, what were the tools that you used other than prayer? Like, was there any method that you used to replace food as your coping skill?
Yeah, so kind of going back to where you were talking about in movies, that ugly cry in the mirror. Woo, child. I had one of those moments where it was like, I'm never going to look in this mirror again and not like what I see. Like, it was just one of those moments, like, I'm tired of looking in the mirror and not liking what I see. So that was kind of that pivotal mindset for me. But really studying scripture on self-control, because I realized that's what it really all boils down to. Like, I remember watching something that's like, if you can't control what you're picking up and putting in your mouth, like, that's an issue. And that really kind of hit home for me, like, yeah, because nobody's forcing me to eat this stuff. Nobody's making me do it. It's literally my motion of doing it. So I had to do that deep dive into emotional eating. So I realized, like, when I'm bored, I like to eat, or rewards, I like to eat. When I'm sad, I like to eat. So just really, I kept a food log. That was something I did. Kept a food log for everything that I ate throughout that day. Now, I will say, when you start that, you're aware of what you're eating, right? So it's like, well, I ain't going to do too much today because I know I'm keeping a log. But I stuck with it for 30 days just to be honest with myself, Yeah. Literally, if it's a bag of chips that I'm grabbing, okay, I ate that. Some cookies, okay, I ate that. Some cereal. Like, that visual for you to really see the patterns of what you're doing. Then I took it a step further and put beside it, like, how I felt, before I ate that food. Or I was bored, so I grabbed a bag of chips. Or we were celebrating, I don't know, my daughter getting a good grade, so we went and got some ice cream. Little things like that. So keeping a food log really helped. Establishing a routine with my workouts. That was something that helped me as well, because I felt like I was inconsistent. So doing workouts that I like. For me, I don't like going to the gym, so I'm not going to go to the gym, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't like workouts over like an hour-long workout, so don't do an hour-long work. Like, I feel like we force ourselves to do things because that's the standard or what other people are doing, but you've got to do what works for you, because the goal is consistency. The goal is to continue to show up. If you're doing things that you don't like, you're not going to show up to do it because you don't like it. So that was like a mindset shift and a schedule shift and a decision shift that I had to make in order to be on that healthier journey.
So what kind of workout do you do?
Yes, so I'm a big YouTube workout at home workout type of person. So I like strength training workouts. Also, like, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the little reels and videos of people doing workouts. I have a category saved where I'll save some of those, and I'll do some of those. So I'm an at-home type of girl. In my living room, I get it in. My daughter, she'll do it with me.
Oh, so
again,
cute.
That's like a generational thing. I feel like she sees her mom working out. I never seen my mom. Well, I saw my mom work out, but it was inconsistent.
Yeah.
So, and she stays on me because she's a big quality time. It's her love language. So
and
she's
how old is she?
She's 7.
Okay.
She's 7. So she's like, Mom, I thought we were going to work out today. I was like, you know what, girl? You're right. We are.
Out of the mouths of babes. Wow. Accountability. Yes, indeed. I love that. And that is so important. And like you said, with the generational curses breaking. And so what are some other generational blessings that you think that you were able to accomplish in your thought pattern?
Take it from a generational curse to a generational blessing.
Yes.
So we talked about breaking trauma and habits, and you just talked about that one healthy habit. What are some other healthy habits that you've incorporated in your parenting?
Yes, so me and my husband, we joke about this, our gentle parenting style that we try to do with our toddler. So I have a 2-year-old.
How's that working?
Oh man, it's so challenging. So we have a 2-year-old, and our approach with him is completely different than my 14-year-old son and my 7-year-old daughter. But I feel like too, like I was a mom at 17, 25, and 29, and I was just a different woman at each of those stages.
Yeah.
So I don't really, spank him as much and things, even though I'd be like, wanting
How's
to go
that
there.
working out?
But I really, child. I choose
different.
Yes, I choose and pick, when to. So if he's just getting on my nerves, I don't feel like that's a reason to spank him.
Right. That makes sense.
But if it's something where like he's in danger or I need him to listen, it's like, hey, then I will. So I'm not against spanking, but I am against just spanking just because I'm irritated, because you wouldn't want someone to do that to you, just hitting you because you're getting on their nerves. So I try not to do that. Some other positive things I will say are our eating habits and things. So monitoring them with their snack intake, like, are you bored or are you hungry? I'll ask that.
That's good.
That's a question I'll ask, and I'm hoping that that's something that they'll incorporate with themselves as they get older. I feel like my husband is breaking the generational curse with being present with our family. I know since we've had kids in high school, I get a lot of questions like, oh, is he the dad of all three of them? It's like, yeah. These are all
just
yes,
nosy.
very, very, that question, I'm just like,
But
yeah.
don't it feel good to be like, and yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is, yes. Like, so I feel like him, being present, because he was a teen dad. I don't think people talk about that, usually the teen mom things, but he was a teen dad and going through a lot, himself at that time. So him being present the whole time in our kids' life, like I commend him for that, awesome. for being present, for being there, for being that God for our children. Like, I'm grateful that I can say, I've had a partner this whole time since we were 17. That's all I can think of right now.
That's good. I mean, that's more than enough. That is way more than enough. So let's talk about your walk as an educator. Talk a little bit about what you do there in that arena.
Yes, so that's a generational blessing because my mother was a teacher. She taught pre-K and kindergarten for about 30 years. So since I was born, she's been an educator. She's retired now. But for a long time, I said that I wanted to be a teacher. And I went to CC for my teacher assistant degree. And my plan was to go to a 4-year college to get my bachelor's as a teacher. But God had other plans, and things did not go through for that. But as a result of me being a teacher assistant, I connected with a speech therapist. I was a teacher assistant in the special needs classroom. So I connected with a speech therapist who told me about the speech therapy program at Fayetteville Tech that I could go to for 2 years, get my associate's degree in that, and be an assistant speech therapist under like a licensed therapist. So I was like, oh, that's right up my alley. That's, time frame. Like, I don't got time for a master's and debt and all that. Like, I need something. I need something now. So that just lined up perfectly. Like, the way that God set that up is just crazy. And even my job now, like, they created the position for me. They didn't have a speech therapy assistant in Lee County schools where I work.
Look at God.
So they literally... And I wasn't even there. Like, somebody mentioned my name in the room.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Ooh.
Girl, literally every day when I pull up to work,
name.
and I've been there 7 years, literally when I pull up every day, God, thank you for the privilege and opportunity to walk into this building because you created this position for me. Like, literally every morning, I say that from the way that it happened. Like, I couldn't have made that up. So, speech therapy is perfect for me because I'm a talker. And I love that I get to teach them to talk. I see the kids 20, 30 minutes at a time, send them back to their classroom.
That's balance. That's balance.
That's balance. Because y'all, please pray for our teachers. Like, no joke, for real. Yeah. Having a full day with a classroom of 20 plus kids or, that's hard.
It really
That's
is.
really, really hard. So I feel like I'm in the perfect space
Blessed.
as an educator with speech therapy. And like I said, I serve preschools and daycares as well. So like the birth through 3, I do some work with them as well. But I feel like I'm in my element. I'm in my zone. Like, I love my career. I love my job. I love coming to work. I love my relationships with the children, with the parents, with the other teachers. Like, education is my jam. I'm an educator at heart, so I love it.
And you got time to bake cookies and write that next book.
You can see
Finish that next
it in
book.
her face when she's talking about it.
She's lighting up.
shows.
I love
You're just
it.
literally lighting up with.
And that's so important to your career.
Yes.
That's the first thing they asked us when I attended hair school in Baltimore, and that was the first thing they asked at orientation. Why are you here? And the answer that the dean was looking for was, I love to do hair. I love doing hair. I love people. I love had to come out of your statement for him to know that you were going to make it in this industry.
Yes.
And so you exude the love of doing what you do, and that is such a blessing. I'm just thinking about, you went from acceptance to obedience, and then you took that still moment and stepped in to your faith. When God said go, you went. You took that Kairos time, and it was just like, okay, I better go ahead and do this. And when you showed up, somebody had already said your name.
Yes.
That right there alone
Man.
preaches. Somebody had already mentioned your name, and then they had to create
And then they created it.
a position for your name. Like, that is so dope.
Yes. Yes.
That in itself is
Like, who else could have done that besides God? 'Cause
Nobody but God.
And I will say, in that season, y'all, I had just had my daughter, so I was pregnant, and I was doing travel speech therapy in Raleigh. So driving an hour, and then driving while in Raleigh to serve in-home therapy. So I just remember, like, and it was the summertime. I was pregnant. It was hot, but I showed up. Every day. I established those relationships with those children and their families. Like, I gave my best in that season. And I feel like God saw that stewardship, like, all right, girl, I got you. When I wasn't even thinking about it or trying to do it. Because I remember getting the call while I was getting ready to go in somebody's house. Like, hey, this is Lee County Schools. We want to offer you a position for it. And I was just like,
Not to mention that you did it doing a path that you thought was the lesser path.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're thinking, like you said, you're seeing some of your other friends and folks going off to 4-year colleges, getting this, that, and the other. And you did it in a way that isn't traditional, but it paid off.
Yes.
It
I
more
just hear
than
the
paid
word,
off.
do
Yes.
not despise small beginnings.
Yes. And that's been encouraging me with this whole podcast journey for me. As I shared with y'all, I'm at my dining room table with my ring light and my mic, getting it in. And that started with me doing just Instagram lives. I didn't even know about a podcast platform or how to do that. So being obedient with going live every Tuesday. And at that time, it was called Tuesday Talks. And from that, God was like, okay, here's a path with podcasting. You've shown consistency with this. Now it's time to do this. And now I feel like I'm stewarding the podcast for, to possibly have a studio and be interviewing people and going to that next level with speaking. Like, I'm all about steward. I see the fruit and the importance of stewarding small beginnings or whatever season that he has me in now, and not getting caught up in that next thing, because, that next thing comes with new responsibilities. So again, asking that why. Well, why do you want that next thing? Are you ready for those responsibilities? Just steward where you are now. And I trust, because God has proven already so far, whatever next level is ready, he'll open that door or send somebody my way or put me in a room for that next level. So I'm just trusting him.
And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, you can catch out her podcast, which is Mom Keys to Mental Peace podcast. Right there at the bottom of the screen.
Yes,
I can't put my finger way over there, but
yes,
Y'all
on
see it.
YouTube. And what other platforms?
Yes, so I upload the videos on YouTube, but it's also available on Spotify, Apple, any podcast platform that you listen to, it's available there.
just search for Mom Keys to Mental Peace podcast.
So you can listen on your way to work, so you can grab your piece and get that lesson, indeed. And okay, so we talked about the 7 stages of grief and breaking those generational curses. You talked about the obedience that comes when you hear God's voice and you move on it, and the acceptance that comes from, knowing that this was something new. When you get on the new path, what is that thought pattern that keeps you and sustains you, not in a stuck way, but in a way of finding consistency?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is like a personality thing or what, but I'm encouraged by the result on the other end for consistency for me. Like, I know that as a result of me doing this on the other end, that result is going to be there. And I have this quote, like, future me is going to be happy. Future you is going to be happy. And it could be something as simple as me washing the dishes at night. Future me is going to be happy in the morning that you went ahead and cleaned this kitchen.
Yes. That
so
is
you don't have
real.
to do it in the morning. So something as small as that or something as big as future you is going to be happy that you stay consistent with writing this book or making this podcast episode. Future you is going to be happy that you stay consistent with that. So I'm really motivated about the result on the other end, which helps me with consistency. Now, I say I'm not sure if that's a personality thing, because I know for some people, like, that's not enough. Like, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. So, yeah, and I will say that's a generational blessing, I think, for me, from my father's side of the family. There's a lot of entrepreneurs on his side of the family. There's a lot of people in, like, established career or just, like, that hustle or that motivation to them. I feel like, in my father, I've seen that in him. I feel like some of that, came to me. So if it's not a personality thing, I encourage you to stick with it and try to get with it, because you're going to be disappointed if you don't. Like, and the longer that you wait, it's just not going to happen. Like, I know with some people going back to school, if they're older, they're like, oh, it's going to take X amount of years. Well, those X amount of years are going to come regardless. Regardless.
Better
So
you
just better go ahead and start it now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like to flip the complaints to gratitude.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've been practicing is when, let's go back to the dishes. When I come and there's a sink full of dishes that I know I didn't create, and I know I've said something to somebody about them, if they don't do exactly, I guess this is some gentle parenting, but if they don't do it exactly when I say I have a choice. I thank God for my child. Who is not listening right now, but I'm going to go ahead and wash these dishes and understand that, thank you, Lord, for this house. Thank you, Lord, for these dishes to eat off. Like, it's changing your mindset to be at peace. Yeah. And then being able to say, I washed the dishes that you left in the sink. Can you please not do that again? It's choosing your battles. What do you do when you get to the hump of a place where you can complain when it's uncomfortable? What is your point? What is your key to getting past the hump of what you can complain about, what's uncomfortable?
Yeah, so I would say for me, that was another mindset shift that I did at the beginning of my journey, was paying attention to the things that I complained about. But I do feel like that was a good point with gratitude, that's the medicine for complaints. Gratitude literally is the medicine for complaints. Like, really going back, how you said, well, God, we had dirty dishes. That means we had food to eat. I know for me at that time, too, I remember driving past a homeless tent community. And that just really did something to my heart, seeing that, like, oh, my God, there are people living over here, like, and I desire a house. Like, that's been a desire for me for so long. My family, right now, we're in an apartment. It's 5 of us, 2-bedroom. But I just find myself just looking through the apartment like, God, thank you that we have somewhere to live. Thank you that there is peace in this home. Thank you that there is joy in this home. I feel like I'm a nice decorator, so I think it's cute in there. Like, thank you, God, that it looks nice in here. Like, even though, the neighborhood that I live in, like, it's a whole bunch of dubious activity going on. But I'm like, in here, there's peace.
Hallelujah.
In here, there is love. In here, there is cleanliness. There is, all the things. Like, in our bubble, we have created that together. So my thing would be that gratitude is the medicine. Like, whenever you find yourself complaining, I promise you, there is something to be grateful for behind it. Like, always.
That is so awesome. So we like to also talk about relationship tips.
Okay.
Sometimes whether it's intimate relationships or business relationships, in your mindset change, in your mindset challenges, how have you, and you can talk about either side of it, how have you found a way to, we call it the conversation with Venus and Mars. And we call it that because Venus represents the feminine energy or the emotional energy. And then the Mars represents the masculine or the logical way of thinking. So, so a lot of times we use those to describe how have you handled your relationships, if you want to talk about your growth and your change of your mindset as you're growing with your husband, because that's a long time to grow through and be together. And like you said, go through that phase of growing up and being young and learning how to be with each other. If you want to talk a little about that, and then we can talk about business relations if you want to.
Sure. So as I've shared, me and my husband were your typical ratchet baby mama, baby daddy.
She say ratchet.
I mean, when I say ratchet, I mean like Facebook arguments, pull-ups, drive-bys, key and card. Like, it was just a mess.
Wait a minute, you ain't key the car, girl, did you? You ain't bust the windows out the car.
Girl.
Thank God for deliverance.
No, like, legit. And I share that so people can, like, really know, like, from where we are today, like, we are a walking testimony of what it looks like. I think when both people decide, it can't just be one person, both people decide that, you know what, we're in this together. We're willing to put the work in together, to do the mindset shift together, to commit our lives to God and make that adjustment. Because we want better for ourselves, we want better for our children, and we want to change those things. I know I touched on before how I felt like I put my value in having a man. So there were things that I was expecting from him that he just could not give me. I had to get from God. So realizing that kind of brought some relief, I think, on my expectations from him, because it was like, girl, the things that you're asking from him or expecting from him, he cannot give to you. And he's not at fault for that. He's not supposed to give those things to you. So I feel like that helped me relax and ease up a little bit on my cattiness, or like, what is it, like that dripping well that the Bible talks about, that nagging, and looking at him like, well, if he just changes this, or if he just fixes this, then everything will be fine. Not realizing that there were things I needed to change and I needed to work on as well. It wasn't all just him.
Wow.
So that was a huge, huge shift in healing to our relationship.
So expectations in relationships. We talk a lot about listening. Listening without the urge to respond. That was my thing. Like, I gotta get my part in. Like, I gotta say what I gotta say. No, don't cut me off, because, and I'm gonna cut you off though, because I might forget what I had to say, because you right now I don't want to hear what you got to say. But listening, really not just hearing somebody talking, but listening to understand and really, really hear the person that you're in this with for your lifetime. It's a beautiful thing. I really am so glad for you to have found that person, and that you stayed together and you found God and you both made the decision at the same time. Because a lot of times people don't have that. People don't have, there's like one person in the relationship who says, I got save, right? And I need you to hurry up and get save so we can be good. And it doesn't happen that way. How did you both come to the realization that you both needed to make this change? Was it over time, or was it just like an epiphany, like, this is it right here, we got to change something?
Yeah, it for sure was over time. And I will say, I think my journey started a little bit before his. But again, as I shared before, having that grace that God gives us, like, God really in that season was big on me about forgiveness, because I was one to hold grudges and bring up old stuff. But you saying that now, but before you ain't, So really just giving him grace, in that season and in that time, and trying to be that example to him of what it looks like to, have unconditional love, or to show grace, or to walk in forgiveness, or what it looks like with me building my relationship with God. Like, okay, like I noticed that she's, reading her Bible more. I noticed that she's being a little more gentler with her response to me. Like, and I felt like he started responding to that, or taking, note of that. And it kind of encouraged him and inspired him to transform as well. Now, not saying that, we're at this perfect, arrival spot, but from where I shared that we came from, to where we are today is just a huge blessing and honor to God, and gives me faith and hope for, where we can continue to go in our marriage, as a result of that.
As the Bible said, a sanctified wife sanctifies a man, right?
Yes.
So, grace though.
Yeah.
Grace in the midst of, but I gotta say what I gotta say. Woo.
And also too, I think taking criticism is hard too. I know for me, here I can dish out all day long what you need to do and what you need to fix, and this is where I saw it. But it's like when it would come to me, it was like, why would you say? No, I don't. And, just always having something to say back. So God had to check me on that. Like, you feel valid in the things that you're saying that you see. So why can't he be valid in the things that he sees? And I've learned that we all have blind spots, which our spouse can help us to see. There's things about me that I don't know because I can't see it. Just like there's things that he doesn't see about himself that, I'm able to see. So that partnership, that unity, us, working together, can help take us to that next level. And I also heard something today too, in regards to wives when they bring up things to their husband, like you have to be sure that you're encouraging him as well, or depositing some type of positivity as well. You can't always keep coming with, well, you need to fix this and you need to do that and this ain't right. Because they were saying like the man, he beats up on himself enough. He doesn't need you to constantly keep bringing up and pointing that out. So that's something that I took, to mind, and was like, that's something I want to, consider and be intentional about, because I did not have that example of a woman speaking life into a man or encouraging a man. I saw, women, you take care of yourself, you make sure that you straight and you doing what you got to do. And as long as you good, whatever he has going on, it's up to him, but just make sure that you're straight. And that's not how I want to be. I want to be unified with my husband. I want to respect him. I want to display that to my daughter for how she, should respect her husband, and to my sons on what to look for in a woman that they choose in their future. So just trying to be that model right now in our household for our kids. Again, that generational change. It just all goes back to that.
Validation was what stood out for me in that piece that you said. And when you have validation, it builds your self-esteem. And it's not about just pumping somebody up,
right.
Just don't be fake about it.
Yes.
But just to validate what they said, even if it made us uncomfortable, we can validate each other, but still say, but that makes me feel a certain type of way. I just want you to know that, because we do that. we do. We be like, yes, but he say something I don't like, or I might ask for something that's outlandish, or that I know that's like that snack, that extra snack. I'm like, go get me some ice cream. And he'll be like, babe. And I'll be like, I'm pretty. I'm your wife. You married me.
Try that one.
That's my favorite thing to do. Like, and then by the time I've done all of that playfully, I'll say, maybe I shouldn't eat the ice cream tonight. I had ice cream last night. But that validation is so good, because it makes you more acceptable to constructive criticism. And opens you up to receive what you need from your other whole. So I like to say other whole, because you need to be whole to be in a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So on another note, with platonic or business relationships, how do you carry your mindfulness, your change of your mindset over to the way that you handle relationships with your peers or your business partners now?
Yes, so I can speak on peers. I just recently had I would say, come to that acceptance part in regards to my peers, because I had a really close friend where we were close friends for over 10 years that ended. And I was just really struggling with that. Like, you know, and then we have mutual friends who are all still kind of close, but it makes it awkward because we're not. So I struggle with this whole, I don't have a best friend and everyone else does, or feeling left out for like certain activities or things going on. It's like, well, dang, nobody asked me to go, you know. So I've recently come to a place of acceptance where my adult friendships look different now than what they looked like when I was 20 or a teenager.
As they should.
Right? Yes. And I felt like as an adult, I still was trying to have that childhood mindset, like, well, we got to talk every day on the phone, or we got to be meeting up. We got to be doing this. We got to be doing that. And that's just not the setup of my life. For one, I don't like to talk on the phone anymore because it's so much going on in my background with my kids that it's like I can't even fully engage in the conversation. So that looks different. I realize now, too, in my life, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. So having to be intentional about planning time to meet up with, you know, my friends now. So, all right, girl, look at your calendar. What day, what time, or this event is coming up. Let's try to plan to do this. So, and accepting, too, that my husband is my best friend. I don't need another, you know, female to be my best friend or to look like that in my adult age. Like, just accepting that friendship looks different, and accepting that we have different friends for different things as an adult. So I have my mom friends. I may have my Bible study friends. I may have my business besties, like, or my brunch friends or whatever, like, just categorize friends. And that's okay as an adult, because I really feel like I was going through a season like, I don't have anybody. And that was just a lie of the enemy, trying to get me to go back to something that was unhealthy. There was a reason, you know, that relationship ended, and coming to acceptance with that, like, it needed to end. The things that God revealed to me, it was like, I understand. It needed to. But just being in that place of acceptance now, and just understanding that relationships just look different at my adult age, and it's not wrong. It's just different.
It's just the way it is.
When the season change, the leaves change colors.
I have one of my best friends still to this day lives in Richmond, Virginia. And even though I do not talk to him on a regular basis, I know I could pick up the phone right now and talk to that brother, and it'll be just like we've been talking all this time. You know what I mean? He's up on so much. We vibe and connect on such a level that we don't really have to be talking to each other every single day to be best friends. I would do anything for him, and I'm sure he would do the same. But we don't talk every single day. I mean, it might be about a year since I talked to him. Now that I think about it. Now that I think about it, it's been at least a year since I've last talked to him.
And social media doesn't
on the
help
phone,
with that.
literally.
Because you know you're liking a comment,
like checking in.
You're like, girl, I saw your post. Like, we good? You good? I'm good. We good.
I don't consider that talking.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's not.
But some people live by social media, for real.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. How do you, when in your parenting, how do you feel about social media and the amount of social media that you were exposed the young people to? How do you feel about that?
I feel like there should definitely be boundaries for that, because on my timeline, and I feel like my algorithm is like recipes and workouts and things. But every once in a while, something crazy will pop up, and it's like, how did this?
Because one of your friends was watching that girl fight.
Yes, and it's like my daughter watching YouTube videos. I'm very like eerie about that, because I'm like, once that algorithm gets going, I feel like especially for children, it's certain things that starts popping up, and they get to clicking on, and then now you don't even know what they done looked at, what they've seen, or what they've been exposed to.
I always say, and it makes me wonder how, back when in our generation, it was about movies. They had ratings. You couldn't go to this movie because this movie has an R or this kind of a rating or NC-15.
That went out the door.
None of that matters with the internet.
Nope.
a 4-year-old knows enough to get online, and an entire world is now available to them at a couple of clicks. And nobody thinks, hey, let's try to keep our children away from this. They leave
It's more so like
they leave it up to the
entertainment.
parents. Yeah, they leave it up to the parents, which was exactly the argument that went on when Tipper Gore was listening to that Prince album, because that's how that started. Yeah. She was listening to a Prince song, and she was shocked and appalled about what she was hearing.
You know,
so
that's before
she
her
was
time.
the one.
Tell her what it was. That's before her time.
It was the song "Darling Nikki."
You know that song?
No.
By
No,
Prince.
she's sanctified.
Yeah.
Prince had a very provocative song during the
I'm
Purple Rain
aware.
movie.
It's kind of out there.
A lot of them, but that one was like the worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she heard the lyrics, and she literally went before Congress. And that's how the parental advisory stickers started getting on everything. But now look at it.
It don't even work no more.
It's non-existent. You might as well, the movies that they put in the movie theaters, why do they even have ratings on them? Because the well-knowledged kid on the internet go to his little bootleg site and can watch the same movie with no issues.
Yeah.
And I will even speak on this. This is something I want to do a podcast on, just to bring awareness. So I was born in 92, and I remember those HBO at night little shows. And I can remember watching those in middle school and like having my finger on the remote and like knowing exactly like when to change it if somebody was coming. And that was before social media.
Yeah.
You know, so just imagine now, you know, with the exposure. And I know like with my 14-year-old son, with me not having as many boundaries from my parents, like I literally was able to do, I'm not going to say anything I wanted, but it was very like, yeah, whatever. But when he'll ask to like stay at certain friends' houses, I'm like, no, I don't feel comfortable with that, because I know what we were watching and things that we were doing, you know, staying at a friend's house. And that's just all that I'm thinking about with him. Like, nope, y'all going to be watching porn or something all night, and I just can't take that. So
and that's like,
and I had to have that conversation with him.
That's good that you were able to have the conversation with him, because I know that a lot of people that we meet from my generation and older generations, there was no conversation that was had. You know, and a lot of times it's sad to say, even in the church, people don't have conversations about delicate subjects because we don't know how. We just teach fornication is sin. And it's like, okay. Like, for instance, I had a friend who, we both had children about a year apart. And my son and her daughter, we were all, you know, girlfriends. We were playing cards in the living room, and all of the babies were in the room watching a little movie on a pallet. And so we left them unattended just long enough for us to realize that they had been curious about their bodies. Yeah. And so we said, they too quiet in there. And so my son's dad went in there, and he's like, what y'all doing in here? And he lifted the covers up, and she was like, put your leg up, do like this. And so my reaction was to pull him to the side and ask him what he was doing. They were like 3 and 4.
Yes.
What were you doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, he reluctantly said, sexing. You know, like, what is that? And I said, what is that? But before I could finish this conversation with her, with him, she had taken her daughter to the bathroom and spanked her and said, you don't be touching no boys. You know, just didn't explain to her what that was that she was experiencing, or maybe she had saw that on TV. Maybe she had saw it peeked in the room on mommy, whatever. But however it goes, the conversations need to be had about the questions that are in the young people's minds so that they can have healthy relationships and boundaries, whether it be in person or on social media, right? So do we do relationships on social media? Do we post about our boo?
I do, like special occasions or things, but this goes back to where we were as a teenager. I felt like before, the motive behind why I posted was like to prove something to someone else, like, you know. So since that's no longer the motive, I don't feel like I have to, you know, as much. But if it's like a special occasion or something, I do. Mostly I talk about my kids on social media. As far as like posting, or, you know, something God has given me, or promoting cookies, or promoting the podcast. So my why behind social media for why I post has shifted over the years.
That's good. Social media growth and evolution. So this is, as we come to the close of our show, we like to end with one specific jewel, one gem that you want to drop. That what would be your final thoughts from everything we talked about tonight that you would like to share with the people that are listening tonight or listen to the playback?
Yes. So my number one quote I feel like is the foundation for everything that I talk about, everything that I do, is progress over perfect. Progress over perfect. Whether it be your health journey, your financial journey, your parenting journey, your relationship journey. Progress over perfect. There's never going to be this arrival moment where we all just have it all together. So just enjoy the process of the progress, you know? Just enjoy that.
That is so important. That sounds like another book. I done said it twice already. I don't know if you heard me the first time.
No, I heard you. I'm for sure open to writing another book, especially with, you know, the wealth of knowledge that I have now. Progress over perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Noted.
Yes.
For sure.
I'll be looking for it. I'm buying it. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
So if did you have any more comments to say about our wonderful, luxurious guest tonight?
I mean, she touched on a lot of very valuable life lessons, I think. I think the thing that mostly sticks out to me is just breaking that generational curse. That is something, and it's funny, and well, in a sad way, that a lot of people talk about that.
Man,
they talk about generational curses. It's almost like they brag about it.
What's the solution,
it's
though?
Like, yeah, generational curse, and this is how we're supposed to be. Oh, really? This is how we're supposed to? No.
That's just how I am.
No, this is not how it's
That's
supposed to be.
That's a red flag comment right there.
And the one that I don't like is, well, it's just black folks being black folks. What?
No.
My mother did it like this. My daddy did it like this.
Or if you try to be better, you're trying to be some other race.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I will say that's a whole nother conversation.
Woo, we gotta
Because
have a
I
part
heard
two.
that with my parents, that and I had that mindset that white people were better, and that's not true at all. Because I've had conversations with.
Well, we could blame the TV on that again. Because I ain't gonna lie, I wanted a poodle skirt and a white picket fence when I was little.
For
and I
sure.
thought being an at-home mom was where it was at.
Yep.
The dog, the cat, the kids, and I'm gonna bake pies and stick them in the window, and the little birds gonna come and sing me a song, right? But life, in reality set, and we are in progress over perfection right now.
Yes, progress over perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to give it up for Miss Tari Khiya Allen-Butler. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And without further ado, we thank you all for watching and listening to the ChynaGroove podcast.
Wait a minute, hold up. You don't have nothing else to add? Everybody else gave their final word. You just kind of chimed in.
Progress over perfect. That was the final word. Okay. So it's definitely a wrap.
Thank you all for joining us once again on the ChynaGroove podcast. You can catch the replay, the rewind, bring it back selector, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube at Mass Media Entertainment LLC YouTube channel. You can just search for ChynaGroove podcast. Once again,
it's a wrap.
This is the ChynaGroove podcast. Thank you each and every one of you for joining us. And on that note, it's a wrap. 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 It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.